What's up, everyone? I'm Andy Johnson from IMP. You may be thinking lobster, but I'm thinking Burger King. And this is part one of my two-part identity rollout reaction. Completed by the talented New York office of JKR, there is a lot to love with this new identity, and as always, a few areas of concern. Despite the name change, it's really refreshing to see that Burger King has maintained a commitment to the color orange and croissant-based breakfast sandwiches. The new logo favors a flat, Swiss-style design over the previous. I think this is a great move and a nice nod to the legacy. One thing I did notice right away is this tiny registration mark. There will need to be a minimum size variation of this logo if there isn't already. I learned this lesson the hard way 20 years ago when we had to make sure that small FedEx logos looked like this instead of this. Getting into the variations, the horizontal word mark definitely does some heavy lifting in this new identity as well. And this monogram I think is quite clever, but I haven't seen it in use outside of notional design. What I have seen is something that was clearly inspired by it, and that's the BK Rewards logo. With their Foundry colophone, Burger King has developed three new fonts: Flame, that we're looking at here, and 2 weights of Flame Sans for everyday type. This is a really smart move, and a lot of larger companies are investing in their own custom type. And it's not just because you have an ownable design, there are really good financial reasons. For example, a single weight of a new typeface costs about $10,000 to develop, but once it's finished, you own it outright. This means you can distribute it freely, you can use it in any medium or any media without paying any additional licensing fees. And working with a Foundry, you ensure that you get all of the flavors of software you may need, whether it's WebOpen, TrueType, or TrueType flavored OpenType, to make sure that it's compatible with all your daily applications like Microsoft Office. And lastly, because it's owned software, you have the choice of choosing either a CapEx or an OpEx budget to hit, depending on which is more economical for the business that year. With their color palette, I did catch a couple misses on this beige, so it's just reminded me why .ase files are so important to distribute to your design partners, and if it's a template, why it's so important to build in those color themes with accurate values to ensure they're used correctly. Moving into their illustration and icons, clearly a fun, irreverent style. I'm having a little bit of cognitive dissonance with these icons because they're both flat and dimensional. Look at the tomato versus the cheese block, for example. I also haven't seen them in use much other than this drink icon, which as it stands is a stylistic miss. The illustration library was developed by a company called Cachet Jack out of Spain. They have a very distinctive style. I would love to see the construction guidelines for this style for companies that need to extend the library, or maybe Cachet Jack will end up on a retainer to build out more and more illustrations. If they aren't, I do hope that they cleaned up these files. Well, regardless, I hope they cleaned up these files. While they look sort of simple and approachable on the surface, if you look at this crosshatch on the ice cream cone, things like that, if they're not cleaned up and cropped, can end up being a nightmare when you're using them for design extension and other applications. One other fun fact, they drew for the competition in France. Not much to see with Imagery yet. The people photography I've seen so far is very on point, looks great. It uses the house style well, and everything about those uniforms remind me of my childhood. It just makes me wonder what the corporate headshots are going to look like. Here's some suggestions. Thanks for watching today. I hope you'll check out part 2 when I dig into applications and talk about launch. Till next time, I'm Andy Johnson from IMP. Take care.